FITC is pleased to introduce Grant Skinner. Grant has become an internationally recognized leader in the field of rich interactive experiences while building gskinner.com into a leading interactive production shop. He's a force to be reckoned with and a great guy to know. So please give a big welcome to Grant Skinner.
And so this whole talk is inspired by inspiration, which sounds like an Intel slogan or something. But so why inspiration? Well, I think what we do is very creative. And we're being asked to innovate, right? We're in a very innovative industry. And innovation is hard. Innovation isn't something that you just come up with a brand new idea from nothing. Innovation, to me, is something that's always evolutionary. It's always building on stuff that people have done before. I mean, there's really not been any... Everything that humanity comes up with is based on something that someone's come up with before. And so, in order to be able to innovate, in order to be able to be creative, we really need inspiration to build on top of, right? Inspiration is the nucleus around which innovation crystallizes. So if we want to be creative, we need to learn how to collect and use inspiration from other sources. So that's going to be kind of the basis of this talk, is how I find inspiration, how I use that inspiration, how I inspire other people, hopefully, and how I stay inspired. And so I'm going to start out by talking about how I find inspiration. I think it's kind of sad. I think everyone is born to be inspired. You look at kids, and they're awed by everything. Everything they see is amazing to them. To be easily inspired, we need to go back and we need to embrace our inner child and be willing to be awed and be willing to look a little bit silly as we gawk at some pretty tree or some cool bird. So what I like to do is I like to keep a folder on my hard drive that I just fill up with random stuff. And I have hundreds, maybe even thousands now, of links and videos and images and things like that that I've encountered, photos I've taken while I travel, just stuff that's inspired me that I want to be able to capture and come back to later on. So this is a X-ray of a stingray. Like, that's cool, man. Van Gogh. I am always fascinated by like tree structures and things like that, and I think this is a really beautiful painting. So I keep all this stuff in a directory, and then when I'm starting to feel uninspired or I have a little bit of time or I'm bored, I go back and I flip through this folder and I try and find something that catches my attention. So again, the other place that we can find a lot of ideas is by interpolating, right? To take two separate ideas and see how we can merge them together. And this can be a technology with a piece of inspiration. It can be a couple of pieces of inspiration. Often for me, it's different pieces of my own work. So like old work, bringing it in with newer work, trying to find out how those two things fit together and what's in the middle that could be interesting. So a couple of years ago, I guess, for no particular reason at all, I woke up one morning and decided that what the Flash world really needed was a kaleidoscope class. And so I wrote a kaleidoscope class, and I really didn't know what I was going to do with it. I released the source code, and I walked away from it because I really didn't have any idea in mind for it at that time. And so I wound up doing a few experiments around this with little swarms of fishy things that kind of get interested when you move your mouse and get bored when you don't, and they head off on their own. The thing that caught my eye was this, which was just some bizarre visualization I did around how these things were running into each other. And I thought this could be kind of interesting if it was more symmetrical, if I combined this back with kaleidoscope. And so I started playing around with that, and I started getting stuff that I really kind of liked. So this is the first round of experiments that I did. And this is something that I call the Impossible Mosaic. And basically, it takes a random color set, and it starts building out this mosaic. My guys at work all say that this makes samurai masks, which I kind of see, but maybe I don't have the imagination for that one. And I started to get stuff that I actually did like. So still symmetry, but now we have multiple axes of symmetry, right? And so you start to get a little bit more visual interest going. This is a comic book store. I've never been a really big comic book guy, but I appreciate them as an art form. I thought it could be interesting to pull out these nice graphics that are in every single comic book and use just the pieces, the unrecognizable pieces out of a comic book to rebuild something that looks neat. And so my first thought, because I was doing all this kaleidoscope stuff, was that I'd feed this back into my kaleidoscope work as the source art, and sometimes this looks great and sometimes it doesn't. So this is like my progressive rock album cover, if anyone's looking for one. Just some like prettier outputs. I really like the texture that comes in with the comic book samples. Just lots of variety and different things, playing with different types of symmetry. So, I mean, this is something that for me is an incomplete work, but something that I'm having a lot of fun playing with right now that, maybe one day will become something, maybe it won't. Maybe it's just something to pass some time right now. So I think it's also important to inspire others. I think that you can create this sort of almost karmic feedback loop where inspiring other people will help to inspire you. And it can also help to drive you and keep you working. So especially with experimental work, I tend to start for myself and finish for other people. So I'll start a project, I'll start sharing what I'm doing with other people, and that almost creates like a requirement that I finish. It's easy to hold on to things and not want to share them because they're not ready to share. But if you do that, you're never going to share it, right? It's never going to be good enough. And so this is actually something that I've had to teach myself over the last year or two is just like agile programming, with creative stuff, you want to share often and share early. Get people talking about it. Get that criticism. Get embarrassed when it sucks. It really helps to keep you interested, and it really helps you to take good directions with your work. And it helps to keep you excited, right? If people like what you're doing, it's easier to keep going with it. This is my twist on Picasso's quote. So smart artists borrow great artists. This industry is so broad now. There's so many technologies involved. There's so many facets to each of these technologies. You can't be an expert on everything. So you have to learn how to collaborate, right? You have to learn when it's time to borrow someone else who's smarter than you and is better at something that you're not good at.